Ladies and gentlemen, in this Gaming Totocom video, we're going to be taking a look at DMC Definitive Edition on the PlayStation 4 versus the Xbox One. This is part of a larger comparison, but I want to get this up today since it's my birthday, so I've been doing all sorts of different things, plus family coming around and stuff, so things have been a little delayed. But anyway, let's discuss the analysis, shall we? So, the PS4 versus the Xbox One. This is probably one of the oddest games that I've ever done a comparison for on RGT. There's multiple reasons, and they're going to be pretty self-evident as we're watching through this video together. So things start off pretty well, and you'll notice that the game does look pretty similar. There are a few differences in the colour, but that's primarily to do with the gamma outputs on both consoles, because you can't change the saturation or what have you in the game itself. But it looks pretty nice. Now, there are some frame rate drops in the Xbox One which are not present in the PS4, at least as many, and we will be doing full frame rate testing as well. But overall, the frame rate on the PS4 is a little higher. This does lead to some tearing on the Xbox One, but that's pretty much a given. There's always a little bit of performance difference between the two consoles. You know, that's kind of part and parcel. I do think it's a little disappointing considering the game does make quite bold statements of 60 FPS, but what you're gonna do, right? I do think that's rather amusing that games do advertise 60 FPS when it's convenient and it's a remaster. Other than that, they'll be like, yeah, 30 FPS is more cinematic. But anyway, I digress. So as the game progresses, most of the assets are pretty much identical. What you will spot, however, is the occasional lack of anisotropic filtering on the PS4, and you'll notice it particularly on acute angle textures. It's quite noticeable actually in some instances, which will be demonstrated as we're watching through this video together. But the lighting, for the most part, as Dante enters his former home, looks pretty identical. There's no major spoilers in this video. I have made sure that most of the really important stuff has deliberately been left out, and I've only kept it to the first few missions. But, you know, so you don't have to worry about spoilers throughout the video. And you'll notice that, for example, the shadows and so forth play off of the coat pretty well. And even the way that the dynamics, the physics on his coat work are pretty much identical. Even here, where you can see the textures, they're still the same low resolution textures as you would probably not really hope to be finding. They are a mixed bag. They're pretty much what you can expect on the PC version, and in case you're wondering, I will discuss the PC version at greater length, but the console versions are not as really what I'd consider superior to be the PC, simply because, to be honest with you, this game's fairly old now. Its graphical demands are fairly low on a PC, which meaning even a low, well, what you could consider to be a low performance card can handle DMC at high resolutions at 60 FPS without any problems. So right here you'll notice there's a little bit of texture pop in on the Xbox One, which is not present on the PS4, but conversely, you can see the cobblestone textures definitely look a little less detailed, and it's not because of differences in texture quality. I want to make that clear. As far as I can tell, it is anisotropic filtering, which is rearing its head again on the PS4, and it's a bit weird because you'll notice certain games really suffer from this in the PlayStation 4, yet others are perfectly okay, and I wish further information really needs to be delved into on this very topic. But as we sweep through, things are pretty much identical, and as we're even jumping through these platforms, same deal. You can see the acute angles once again. There is a slight difference. The Xbox One textures do look a little bit nicer, and here there's a light source on the Xbox One, which I put lovingly in text, but it doesn't reflect on Dante. So in other words, it's pretty much, from what I can tell, just background. In other words, it's not, you know, reflecting on the character, it's not interacting with the environment. It's very static light sourcing. It's baked in, as much baked in as you can possibly get for baked in, to be totally honest. So right here, same deal. You'll notice that there is a little texture pop in, this time on the PS4 version, which is really odd. Speaking of PS4 version, I want to point out another little bug that I found. I actually recorded a mission, I think it was the third or fourth one, on the PS4, and there were no shadows. They literally did not load in. And I basically had to reload the entire mission to fix the problem. And I have noticed some oddities on the Xbox One version as well. For example, floating enemies, by which I mean the enemies have been stuck in midair, but that's slightly off the topic of this video. But when it does work, it looks pretty much identical as we're running through this corridor. Same deal, slight difference in color, but textures look about the same. It looks, you know, it looks quite a nice game, but you do feel that there could have been slightly more done with it, at least in my personal opinion. But as I said, when it comes to the overall environmental quality, there is subtle differences here and there, and it's not like the Xbox One version loses or the PS4 version loses, because you'll notice that sometimes you can just get the situation where the Xbox One, you'll notice like visual tearing on it, but then there'll be some texture pop in on the PS4, on the Xbox One version, which is not present on the PS4, but then you get better anisotropic filtering on the Xbox One. It's a really, really mixed bag, and it's a little odd. In terms of controls, it's pretty much tight across the board. There's no major issues. Personally, I slightly prefer the PS4 controller for Devil May Cry type of games, and I slightly prefer the Xbox One for FPS. That's just my preference. I think it's just the way that I've been gaming for God knows how long. But, you know, for most people, it's probably not going to be any difference. It's preferential. It is not, you know, an actual problem with the game. It is my personal way of liking to control it. Even here, pretty much identical, because there's no real major differences between, at least I can see. Maybe I've just been staring at the bloody images too long now. But, yeah. So overall, which version's the best one? Or you can see a little bit of pop in there on one version. Yes, we can. It's really odd. Which version's the best one? Well, to be totally honest, I don't think there's much in it. The Xbox One version does have a little bit of extra slowdown and visual tearing. The PS4 version has slightly worse aliasing and in my opinion anyway, anisotropic filtering, but it's all pretty much a mixed bag, and I really wouldn't worry about which one you're going to get on this one. Yes, as I said, there is a little bit of frame rate difference, which I will be going into more when I'm doing full frame rate testing, but it's not anything terrible. This is not Assassin's Creed Unity. I just want to point that out. And as we're going through here, same deal. You can see that for the most part, all of the textures look pretty much identical. There's no, you know, maybe the odd little tiny particle effect if we counted them visually one by one, but it looks pretty much identical to me. Even here, when I fail on this little section, pretty obvious. I don't know why I stopped shooting it on the PS4 version. I honestly think I was paying half attention because I was trying to look at one screen and play on the other, and that's never the best way to play a game. But yeah, you can see even here, just watch out just in a second and you're going to see the same situation where there's just a hint of pop in, but that's pretty much it. That's on the ground. I've played it super duper slow. I think it's like 10% speed, so you can kind of get an idea. But anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this, and let me know if you enjoy this narration rather than kind of the more clinical one. But for now, take care, and hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Bye.